These sessions are based on the book The Messiah Codes Unsealed. Hello everyone, welcome to Temple 2030 Watch. I'm Luis Narciso. I'm the author of the book The Messiah Codes Unsealed, available in Amazon. Each week we look at real news and ask, could this be part of the path that leads to the dedication of the Third Temple in the year 2030? Today we will do a brief Bible study before we get into the news. I have heard people say that Jesus never called himself God. Well, I beg to differ. There are many ways for God to say that He is God. He can say, I'm God, as Yahweh said in Isaiah 46:9, when he said, remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there's no other. I'm God, and there's none like me. Or he can just describe the nature of his name, as his name cannot be compared to anything else, or can be defined in human terms. Like when God sent Moses to free Israel from Egypt in Exodus 3:13 and 14. And we read, Then Moses said to God, Indeed, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, What's his name? What shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. In other opportunities, other people describe God, or in this case, Jesus' nature, and he doesn't correct them, but accepts what they say. Like Jesus did when the disciples called him God, he never corrected them, because he's part of the God unit made of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Like we read in John 20:27 and 28. Then he said to Thomas, Reach your finger here and look at my hands, and reach your hand here and put it into my side. Do not be unbelieving, but believing. And Thomas answered and said to him, My Lord and my God. In fact, who created the universe? We read in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. However, John writes that Jesus, the Word, created the universe and equated Jesus, the Word, to God. As we read in John 1:1-3, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. Of course, John clarifies that the Word is Jesus when he wrote in John 1:14, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Obviously, the creation was ordered by the Father, as Jesus clarifies that he does not do anything out of his will, but out of the Father's will. We read in John 14:31, But that the world may know that I love the Father, and as the Father gave me commandments, so I do. In another example, in Exodus 33, Yahweh tells Moses that no one can see his face and live. Yet, in Genesis 18, Yahweh appeared to Abraham in person, spoke with him, ate with him, and Abraham lived. On sessions 24 and 25, we did a deep dive and explained through the scriptures that there is no contradiction between those two passages. In fact, there is no contradiction but a paradox between the concept of the Trinity and Deuteronomy 6:4, when the Lord says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. The paradox is solved when you let the Bible interpret itself. Remember that God told us in Isaiah 28:11, For with stammering lips, by repeating events and dates, creating patterns, and another tongue, not necessarily on the easiest way, like saying 7 minus 3 instead of 2 plus 2, but both of them are 4. He will speak to these people. He will speak to us. So there is an astonishing moment when Jesus is interrogated by the high priest, and this is an amazing conversation, very short but packs a huge punch. You have to keep in mind that this is the high priest, a man with extreme good knowledge of the scriptures, asking Jesus the question. This wasn't a random question, by the way. In fact, to understand the depth of the question, it is essential to understand that the high priest was bringing references from the Old Testament as he was asking. The passage is written in the book of Mark 14:61 through 64, and I'm going to just mention some excerpts. Again, the high priest asked him, Jesus, saying to him, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" Jesus said, "I am." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "What further need do we have of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. Let's unravel those words. Again, we have to understand the high priest's question, as it had a much deeper scriptural meaning than it appears to the untrained ear. Remember that this is the high priest speaking, and as we will see, he dug deep into the scriptures when he asked Jesus. First he asks, "Are you the Christ?" Christos is the word for Messiah in Greek. And Jesus said, "I am." So Jesus said that he is the Messiah. But even more to the point is the second part of the high priest's question. "Are you the Son of the Blessed?" The Greek word used for the blessed is the word eulogeto, that is in the New Testament is used exclusively when referring to God. But that's not all. When he asked Jesus, "Are you the Son of the Blessed?" he asked Jesus if he was the Son of God. Any rabbi or scribe would have understood that the high priest was referring to Isaiah 9:6, where we read that the Son is also mighty God and the everlasting Father, as we read, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given." So this is the Son that he's referring to. "And the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful," okay, Counselor, nice, "Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace." Mighty God and Everlasting Father, that's how this Son is going to be named. And what happened after that? What happened after that is the high priest asked Jesus if he's the Messiah, the Son of God, who will be called Mighty God and Everlasting Father. Jesus answered the high priest using the same words God used to answer Moses when he asked God, "When the children of Israel ask me, who should I say sent me?" Jesus and the Father answered with their name, "I am." That's why the high priest tore his clothes and accused Jesus of blasphemy, because Jesus called himself God. So, going back to the temple dedication in 2030, we're using scenario analysis to try to map how could we possibly get from today, the reality that we live today, to the temple dedication in the year 2030. Remember that the dedication of the third temple in 2030 is found in biblical prophecy, as per the models described in session 8 to 11. But the scenario analysis is mine, so take it with a huge grain of salt. Here's a brief infographic of the scenarios. The scenarios are: scenario 1 is the forced construction of the temple. Israel unilaterally builds the temple on the Temple Mount. Could be this scenario runs through many different alternatives. Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque are destroyed because of an act of God, an earthquake, or it's destroyed by terrorists, or there's a structural damage and it falls for whatever reason. If anything happens to the temple of the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Muslims were going to rebuild them greater and more majestic, with gold and diamonds, who knows what. They're very rich. They can do all that kind of stuff. So that's not going to happen. Scenario 2 is the alternative location, right? The temple is built somewhere outside of the Temple Mount. So that's not going to happen. It's not outside of the Temple Mount. It's not going to happen. It's going to be built somewhere in the Temple Mount. Because scenarios 1 and 2 are very unlikely, we're concentrating on scenario 3. And scenario 3 again has two versions, right? The attack in the middle of normal tensions in the region, and an attack in the middle of an invasion to the Golan Heights because of, again, the oil riches that are found there. Billions and billions of barrels are estimated to be there. The key element of both scenarios is the detonation of weapons of mass destruction, likely a tactical nuke or something as devastating. But on version A, the explosion occurs under the normal high tensions in the region, and on version B, the explosion occurs parallel to a peaceful, quote-unquote, invasion to retake the Golan Heights, led by Syria and supported by a coalition of the willing, led by Russia, Turkey, and Iran, the signatories of the Astana format, to preserve the integrity of Syria's territory, among others. And maybe with the tacit or express approval of and even support of the UN. The goal is for Syria to take back partially or completely the oil-rich territory and reward those who help in the recovery by sharing on the riches. Both versions describe the bomb attack will occur, likely similar to the attack in October 7, 2023, when Israel felt that they were safe because of the mighty power of the IDF. So it seems like October 7, 2023 was a marker, a pattern to be repeated. Now let's sift through this week's world news to spot patterns that might connect to Bible prophecy. Specifically, the events leading to the dedication of the third Jewish temple in Jerusalem in 2030. These prophecies come from the books of Genesis, Leviticus, and Ezekiel, and they form an interdependent model. Dates and details align so precisely that if they play out, it's compelling evidence that we live in a created reality, in a creation, or a simulation where the creator embeds verifiable codes in history and declares the future through prophecy. This week, November 14 through 21, the spotlight is on the Golan Heights. Israeli raids and abductions in Syrian villages, retaliatory rockets, and simmering extremist threats. However, no major temple development. But border flares echo our scenarios of a potential peaceful coalition push on the Golan for its oil by 2027-2028. Let's explore each story with context, then connect the dots. First, Israeli raids and abductions escalate in the Golan's buffer zone. The Golan Heights is a rugged, about 1,200 square kilometer or 460 square miles plateau straddling the Israel-Syria border. Has been a flashpoint since Israel captured it during the 1967 Six-Day War and annexed it in 1981, a move recognized only by the US in 2019. It's not just its strategic elevation overlooking Damascus, about 60 kilometers away, 37 miles away, but it supplies 30% of Israel's fresh water via the Jordan River headwaters and hosts thriving farms, wine and apples. The region is known for its high-quality wines. I didn't know that, with the large Golan Heights winery being one of Israel's leading producers. And more importantly, it hides vast oil reserves estimated at billions of barrels discovered by AFEC Oil in 2015, but undeveloped due to politics. Since Bashar al-Assad's fall in December 2024, Israel has intensified operations to prevent weapons or extremists from filling the vacuum. On November 14, the Christian Science Monitor reported Israeli forces raid Syrian villages like Yokava al-Kashhab, arresting 5 to 10 civilians accused of Hezbollah or Iranian ties. The mayor of the village, Mohammed Massen, described armored vehicles blocking roads and detention without warrants, leaving families in fear. On November 21, Al Jazeera detailed what they call an ecocide, or an ecologic homicide, claims. Bulldozers leveling olive groves and checkpoints isolating communities. stoking resentment among 24,000 Syrian Druze in the area. And the so-called ecocide may cause increased resentment against Israel among the population on the area and help get recruits to join extremist groups. The second story is rockets from Syria and extremist threats hit the border. On November 18, the IDF intercepted 5 or 6 rockets launched from southern Syria towards the Golan Heights, landing harmlessly in fields, no casualties, according to the Times of Israel and the BBC. The IDF retaliated with strikes on Syrian military positions, blaming extremist elements. A new group, the Jerusalem Brigades, claim via Al-Mayadeen TV that the attack was in retaliation for raids in Gaza. It is concerning that a fringe chatter like at OK Frankie joked on November 21 during a model United Nations simulation, "Nuke Israel." A model United Nations simulation is an education and extracurricular activity that simulates the United Nations, where students acting as delegates represent a country or organizations to debate global issues. And nuking Israel? Participants research and discuss international problems, develop policy positions, and work with other delegates to draft and vote on resolutions. So yes, it is concerning that such crazy idea could float even as a joke by a student in the United Nations simulation. Connection to scenarios, right? Version A, again, a weapon of mass destruction under normal tensions, right? And B, the same attack, but during an invasion, share the extremist attack as trigger. In November 2024, the International Atomic Energy Agency reported that Iran had approximately 142 kilograms of uranium enriched at 60%, or close to 128 kilograms if rounded, or from a snapshot. Remember, these are estimates, right? So the International Atomic Energy Agency, the latest confidential report done in November 2025 puts 60% enriched uranium at 440 kilograms. That's a 244% increase from the baseline of 128 kilograms just less than a year. So breakout time to one bomb worth at 90% enrichment could have been as short as a week, as per Iran Watch. Why they weren't able to do it, to go to 90% weapons grade, but they didn't do it? Well, they say it's due to, or people say it's due to discontinuity, due to the Israeli and American attacks in the production centers. Remember, many, if not most, of the centrifuges survived the attack. Remember also that there were trucks taking material and equipment out of these reactors, these nuclear facilities, before the attack. Or maybe they had about 130 to 140 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium since last year, and they had time to enrich it to 90%, but did it silently, and nobody knows, right? That is aligned with the Frankenbomb scenario, both version A and version B. So temple-specific news stayed subdued. No WASP Temple Mount alerts or visit surges, but the Golan Heights ties remains amplified. Putting the pieces together, November 14 to 21, we had Israeli Golan Heights raids and abductions, Syrian rockets extremist claims, online temple fears, and the oil-rich Golan Heights remains the lure, right, the hook for the invasion. But no invasion yet, and that's going to be still for a while. But President al-Shara demands for the return of the Golan Heights to Syria. So that's the week's pulse. Next week we'll have fresh insights. But please subscribe to at Temple 2030, then YouTube or wherever you're watching this video, and tap the bell. If you want to get deep on the calculations, check out the book, The Messiah Codes Unsealed. It's in Amazon. What do you think about the Iranians close to weapons grade or possibly already weapons grade enriched uranium? Will it be given to extremists to do their evil deeds while disassociating themselves from the attack? Could this be the prelude to Ezekiel 38? What do you think? Thanks for watching. Stay vigilant, stay prayerful, and until next week, Shalom.